Oh, it's the recording.
We shut the door so the AC stays in.
Well, I believe we have a couple of people still straggling in.
Okay. And they still get in?
Recording's going.
Can we put the recording in the center, just to capture as much
Oh, yeah.
volume as possible, please? Thank you.
Also in front of you.
In front of Stephanie, right. Okay, it is 6:04. I would like to call the Baldwin City Council work session for July 8th to order. You will gavel with coffee. Thank you for coming to our first stacked meeting. So in one of our cost-saving measures, we have changed how we're doing meetings for the city council. What we are doing is having work session immediately followed by council meetings. We will take a bit of a break between the two, okay? Because we're having a couple of issues. We usually have our meetings, and folks who are new, we usually have our meetings in the courtroom, but there was court today. And when court goes long, we have our meetings here. We thought we were going to be able to move it up to court, but they were having an air conditioning issue, which leads me to my second problem. We don't have bathrooms down here. So if you need to use the restroom, you can go up to the court, and there are restrooms right in the front of the building. Is the door unlocked so people can go there? And then between the two meetings, we'll take about a 10 or 15-minute recess for us, okay, if we need to go. Public meeting, there are no public hearings, there's no old business. The first item on the agenda in work session is discussion of the mountain system improvements. Scott, do you want to lead us in our conversation, please? This is Scott Barnhart. He is our public works director, and he's been leading his staff through the water.
Nightmare? Yeah, that's the word Okay. Like I said, my name is Scott Barnhart, Public Works Director. For you that live in the Banks County on the water system, as most of you, some of you from here for that. A little rundown on what happened. We experienced a break which led to loss of pressure in the entire mountain system. When we went down, we repaired that break. Facebook is a garbage pit, okay, in my opinion. People who listen to Facebook, you're wasting your life, okay? What happens is, somebody said we were filling it with a 2-inch hose, okay? Facebook. We have a 6-inch water main that goes down Old 441. We have 5 pressure reducing valves as it stair steps down the mountain because the elevation change is so great. Inside those vaults, you have the 6-inch main, and then you have a 2-inch bypass. On a normal day, like it is right now, everybody down the mountain is being fed from that 2-inch main. As the demand calls for water, then the 6-inch opens up and starts putting more water down. But on a normal, slow day with not a lot of usage, that 2-inch main is actually keeping that area pressurized until it calls for more water. And then the 6-inch line slowly opens up, sends more volume down there, okay? So what happens is when we have a break on a 65-year-old or better line that had no standards when they put it in, that line, when we've gone to dig up places where it's broke, it's laying on top of solid granite. It was never bedded right. They put backfill, was just chunks of rock on top of it. So we're dealing with somebody else's install 65 years ago, or 1962, we found a bottle, and one of the holes had 1962 Coca-Cola bottle. So that being said, with that, when we repair the line, we don't have any air relief. We don't have anywhere for the air to go. Air does not compress in the water line. It's going to find somewhere to come out. So what we have to do is we have to run around and we have to open up what we call blow-offs, which are areas where we can open up to let the air bleed out as we're slowly repressurizing the line, to let the air come uphill and slowly find these places that we have opened up until all the air comes out of the system. That is a slow process right now, extremely slow. But we keep the 2-inch running the entire time. Even when we're repairing a break, we leave the 2-inch running, so hopefully everybody will get something. Sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't, okay? But that is basically how that system works. There's a project coming up, we've already got them in, I think we got them in a couple weeks ago, 2-inch air relief valves to install on that system down there. There's 7 of them. The engineers came out, they looked at the whole system, picked the most spots where those are going to work the best on our system. It's going out to bid to have somebody come in and install these, which is going to help out tremendously when we have our next break. And I'm not going to say if we have the next break, when we have our next break, because it's going to happen again. We can't prevent it. The 8, 9 guys I got working for me, 42 hours straight, 36 hours straight. They can't do any more physically than what they do. They go out there, they give it 120%. I'm damn proud of them, but we're still going to have breaks down that mountain until we get it fixed. That's why the city's going after the GFA, $6 million, start replacing some of this line, okay? But as that system pressurizes, it's being fed from just the 2-inch until we can get as much of that air out. Once we get as much of the air out as we can, we slowly open the 6-inch and start putting more pressure down there. The last time we did that is when we started, people said, hey, I got back pressure, and then it went away. Because what happened is, as we were turning that 6-inch on and giving it more pressure, there was still air in the system, and it found somewhere to go. Unfortunately, that old pipe down there is 40-foot sticks. It's from one joint to another, it's 40 foot. Now, the pipe we put in now is 20 foot. That old pipe is 40 foot. So every time it breaks, it's like it explodes. It doesn't just get a little pinhole in it. It shatters like you hit a glass bottle down. And it shatters 40, 60 foot at a pop. And we get down there and dig it out, put a new one in, and we start the whole process over again. So that's where it is. I understand the frustration. I really do. We're as frustrated as everybody else. This is something that we deal with. But when you're getting your information, city's website, the city's Facebook page only. Everybody else doesn't have the information we have. The minute we try to get something, we try to give it there. Unfortunately, it's not as rapid as people like rapid information. And unfortunately, it isn't rapid because it's us doing it. If it's midnight, one of us has to do it. Well, not me because I'm down the mountain trying to put the water back on. But it's somebody trying to do it. Okay? Things with boil water notices. There's things the EPA requires us to do. When we issue a boil water advisory, we're not going to lift that. It's the city cannot lift with a boil water advisory. The only person who can lift it is myself if I get it issued. It's my state license. So if anybody's going to lift a boil water advisory, it comes from my office. And as soon as I get that information, I send it straight to the city administrator, put it on the website, and I go through notifying the news media and outlets that I use to issue the boil water advisory. That's the most important thing. If it takes a little longer this time, perfect storm, 4th of July weekend. I hope everybody had fun. I know it was kind of hard, but labs are closed. Those have to be at the lab. That sample has to be at lab for 24 hours to be tested. They were going to be closed. I would rather err on the side of caution when it comes to making sure we have clean drinking water, that it's free of any harmful bacteria. I would rather err on the side of caution and let that boil water advisory go just a little bit longer than rush it. And make sure that it's done right. Everybody has pressure, everybody has water, and it's done correctly. That's why it didn't get lifted till today. And it got lifted today. Our samples came back from the lab. They're all clear, negative for any harmful bacteria. I lifted boil water notice. I sent it straight to the city administrator, and we went all through the media outlets. That's what happens there. So please, please, you have low pressure, you have an issue, call City Hall. Talk to the ladies up there, tell them I have low issue with my water, I have low pressure, I have no pressure, I have no water. Give them your name, your address, phone number, and we will come check it. And we'll come check it right away. We'll come out at 11 o'clock at night and check it. Okay? We want you to have the water you need, and we want it to be great water. And that's, any questions? Any questions at all? Any questions from Mayor and Council?
Well, thank you for the
No?
answers, and thank you to you guys, and we've seen it in the hole for 5 days.
Well, I mean, if it's an easy job, everybody would do it.
No, but you do it well, and your guys are always gracious. So one of the things we see here on Facebook is how hard your staff is working.
Well, we're very fortunate. We have a great supervisor. Does an excellent job. We have great crew members go out there and do an excellent job.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, this is going to happen. You know, I used to lay awake at night and think about it. But you know, a guy when I was going to do class told me, if you have a water system, you're going to have breaks. Just like we have sewer, at the same time we have water down the mountain going on, we have sewer issues in town going on. You know, I have a very limited staff. We still have everything else to handle. So.
Can you talk a little bit, Scott, about the line under 441 and how long it took to get approval from DOT?
And that's causing
Why
us.
that was important.
Right, and that's causing issues as well with down there, because see, one of the main transmission lines that we have for the city goes down Willingham Avenue, it goes down Stone Pile and feeds the mountain, and then it goes under 441 and goes down towards Cornelia. There's another one that's up here, this transmission line that goes to the new water tank. When that line broke, which a few months ago, which started the initial rolling effect, that line is a crucial part of how this system operates. And without that line being reconnected, it's putting a lot of pressure on this side of our system, which is not good for anything. That's why we had more leaks in town than we usually have ever had. It's the same thing. It's a trickle-down effect on a water system. And Baldwin has one of the most unique water systems around, strictly because we are on a divide. You have Baldwin Mountain, and then it has a high elevation drop going down to where our water lines actually end all the way down to Collinsworth. So there's a lot of water line in the ground down there. That is a unique situation, and when you have something up in town, just because it's on the cuff of the mountain, it affects the mountain system. So,
How old was that line that broke?
which
Under
one?
Under 441.
Truly, I'm not real sure when that line was
Okay.
installed.
But we
But-
couldn't, it's been dead for a little while. It's been dead for a little while.
Since February.
Since
Since,
February.
since February.
And we had just gotten DOT approval
DOT took
to
forever.
bore under their road
Right.
to fix that line.
Right.
And now it needs to be a case line
Right.
under 441.
Yeah, anything under highway has to be cased, and it takes DOT a while to do what they need to do. The engineers have to come up with plans, submit to DOT. DOT sends it back, says no, change this, or this. It's a process, and it takes forever to do it. One of the reasons it cost the city $1 million more or something like that to put our new water tank up is because DOT would not let us hang a water line on their bridge. So they had to go back to the drawing board and draw a whole new way to get the water line over to the new water tank. Because DOT said, no, you're not putting it on the bridge. So DOT, you're at their mercy until you submit stuff and they give you a permit, you can't do it. But in the meantime, we have to keep this tank lower than normal because it will overrun the other tank because it doesn't have the loop anymore. You close the loop on it. Things like that. I mean, and just so you're aware, if you live in Banks County, we're not done. We're not done by a long shot. Okay? This tour, one of our PRVs went bad during this whole event. We have it bypassed right now. When the parts come in, that will have to be addressed. So if you live south of Wind Lake Road, we're going to have a little bit of water shortage when these parts come in. Hopefully, it comes in quick, not too quick, y'all need a break. But when it does come in, we will give you advance notice that when we're going to do it. And we will try to find the most opportune moment to do that. And if that has to be done in the middle of the night, then that's when it'll be done. But that is coming. coming down there. We have to repair it. Can't just let it go.
Scott, how long have you been with the city?
11, ooh, yeah, 11 years.
How many times over your 11-year tenure have you seen the city try to get grants for that line to be replaced?
11 years.
Yeah. And I think that started even before you came, right?
Yeah, oh yeah. There's, you know, it was a different mindset back then too.
It was.
Wow, that's-
Gentlemen, any question?
You have a question, sir?
Yeah, I live on Harmony Church Road, and that is just north of Glen Lake.
Right, right.
And this may not be something that you know, I don't know, but how does the water from Harmony Church feed? Does it feed from
Good
the
question.
old 441
Good
line?
question. Let me tell you a little story about Harmony.
It used to, when it was.
Let me tell you a story about Harmony
Yeah,
Church.
but I remember.
It used to feed from old 441,
Yes,
under 441, down Harmony Church,
yes,
and then connected at 105,
okay.
okay?
But-
Water line broke in front of the church up there, the Harmony
Yes.
Church. Middle of the night, Public Works Director at the time said, just cap it off, boys. And they capped it off.
Yeah. Okay,
Had no idea why,
okay.
okay? Now, that being said, now Harmony Church is fed off just 105.
Okay,
Fed off
Okay.
105. There's a valve we shut over there during this whole event that we were having an issue with Otis Brown Lane. Otis Brown Lane off Otis Brown Road.
yes,
And so they closed the valve over there. Right now, we have extremely good pressure on Otis Brown Road. Harmony Church could get better.
it can do better.
It's still good.
Since July the 3rd, about, 9 or 9:30.
That's about-
It's been very adequate, I'll
Right,
say.
that's what it is. But we have a valve shut over there.
Okay.
Now, before, we had to open a different valve than normally is open.
Mhm.
We had a closed valve that we normally leave open. We had to close. We had to open the valve we normally leave closed over here. So
Right.
now,
Okay.
that we were gonna do it Monday, and I called the engineering firm, and I said, let's give this a week or two. Let's just let the system just relax for a minute. And once it gets relaxed a minute, then we'll come in and we'll start turning valves. Because down there, it's not like any other system. Any other system, you know, you put a valve wrench on a valve, if you don't know, gate valve, close the water, you put a valve wrench on it and you go around about this fast and you shut the valve.
Right.
If you turn the valve wrench that fast down the mountain, you're gonna bust the line.
Right.
I mean, you have to turn that thing so slow, you fall asleep doing it. So,
Yes,
but if you don't, you have problems. The city of Gainesville, they'll throw a valve wrench on there and spin that sucker around like you got a motor hook to it. You can't do that in the mountain. It's a
Right.
whole different animal. It has to be treated
and
different.
I
So
totally understand.
before we go down there and start shutting this valve back off and opening this valve up, see what it does,
Yeah.
we're gonna give it a couple of weeks to relax. Because that system is alive, I swear it's alive.
Yeah.
You know, water has its own way of doing things. And, you know, and I will take blame for the first time. We had to break and we got it fixed. We started fixing it up and it broke again. That was on me.
Yeah. Well,
The water supervisor wanted to let that 2-inch run for 48 hours, slowly bleeding it off.
yeah.
And I felt immense pressure because I was an idiot and looked at Facebook. And I opened the 6-inch. I told him to open the 6-inch quicker than we should have done it.
Yeah.
That one was on me. That will not happen again.
Right.
Okay? I know what that system needs to live. And that's slow is the name of the game. When we get these air relief valves in there, might be a little quicker. But right now, it's slow. So,
Okay.
and you know, that one was on me. And I didn't listen to a supervisor that I should listen to.
Yeah. I know when it was originally put there, it came off of 441.
It did, and it moved.
And then, one of the neighbors talked to somebody with the city, and they said that it's coming off of 105, and I said,
Mhm.
it had to change then because I was there, I was a kid,
Yeah.
but I was there when it was put in, and I knew it came originally.
Well, you want a loop, you
That's
know, a
good.
loop, a looped water system is much better than a dead-end
Yes,
system.
absolutely.
And so ideally, to get that repaired, to have it feed off of 105 and 441 is much better.
Absolutely, I
Uh,
agree.
But it's gonna take a little bit of time to get it squared off.
Awesome. Well, thank you.
Any more questions about the mountain system or water system at all? Good.
Thank you, Scott.
All right.
And I realize some of you talked about the water system, so we do citizen comments in the meeting. So when we
Good job,
shift to the county meeting, we'll invite people up for citizen comment on that. The next item on our agenda is discussion of the SRO contract with Havertine County Board of Education. Chris, you're gonna lead that conversation, and we also have the superintendent of schools here. If you would like to join the conversation, we would love to have that. And Principal Rodney Long from Walden Elementary is here as well to help out with the conversation.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. First, I'd like to start off and give a commendation to Scott and his guys, because I've seen what they went through. I've been out there directing traffic for them, and they're in the ditch with the mud, so really appreciate those guys. But I would like to go back when I started here at Baldwin, and I would like to, we try not to talk about the past, but I don't believe this opportunity would have ever arisen with the way it was when I arrived here. And Principal Long will probably tell you that. I don't think the sheriff's office would have ever agreed for a municipal police department to provide an SRO for the school system. Well, when I got here, we started going to the schools, going to Head Start as well. I got to know Principal Long very well. He runs a great school over there. And in Habersham County, correct me if I'm wrong, Patrick, there's 14 schools.
Yes, sir.
So for a long time, there's been 9 school resource officers, correct?
Yes, sir.
So that means 5 schools get a partial SRO, and Baldwin was one of those. So that is what formed a large part of the relationship with me and Principal Long. When his SRO was not there, originally it was Evelise. And Evelise, great SRO, but she was split between 2 schools, normally Baldwin and Fairview, correct? So that's quite a distance in between. So if something happened, Rodney would call me on my personal phone because it was faster, and we would always expedite, get over there quickly and help him out. So then he got a new SRO. They moved Evelise to Fairview primarily, and her name was Gracie. Great SRO once again, but she's not full-time at Baldwin. So a few months back, Sheriff Robin gave me a call and asked if we might be interested in providing an SRO to Baldwin Elementary. And the Habersham County Board of Education would 100% fund an SRO from our police department to that school. Well, I thought it was a great idea. I've talked to Emily, and it gives an SRO that will be at our school 100% of the time. And as we know, the golden people in our world are the children, correct?
Yes.
So that is the golden people. We have to protect them at all costs. And given this opportunity that we can give an SRO that will be there, and they will only answer to me or Principal Long. When they're at the school, they will answer to me or Principal Long. They will not be pulled away to another school. They will be there the entire time. So myself, I don't see any downsides to this. I would be grateful if y'all could provide me any questions that y'all might have or concerns. But before you do that, I would like for Mr. Patrick to come up, and he's going to speak to you about the contract. And that, as we know in this world, the IGA is one of the most important factors we have to make sure that this program works. So I'll turn it over to Patrick at the moment.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Patrick.
That's what you do. Council, thank you for letting us be here tonight. We're working very hard to make sure we have a resource officer in every one of our schools. And I think, well, I know that partnering with our city is only going to bring our community closer together. Because, I mean, I'll be honest with you, I go to bed at night thinking about our kids and their safety. I get up in the morning thinking about it. I talked to Sheriff Crockett before I walked in. We have had this arrangement with the Sheriff's Office for over 12 years, and it has worked flawlessly. He couldn't be here tonight, but he'll tell you that it works very well with what we do. We are partnering with the City of Demorest, working on that right now, and we'd love to partner with the City of Baldwin because I believe it brings our community closer together. It makes our kids safer. And this is, few times in government is there a win-win. But I look at this as a win-win. And Ms. Emily and I have worked on the contract, and basically just to simplify it for folks, we take what this officer costs, you divide it by 12, send us an invoice, and we send you a check. And, whether that be, there's things that'll come up during the year that need to be paid, and we'll handle those too. But I want to thank Chief Jones because they have had a great relationship. It's really a model between himself and Principal Long. We really want to duplicate that across our county. But at this point, with City of Baldwin's on point, we are very close to having an officer in every school in our county. At this point, closer than we've been in many, many years. So I'd love for y'all to be part of that. Any questions I can answer, Mayor, Council members?
Talking about the contract, you say it's 100% covered, we invoice you every month for the cost of the officer.
Yes, ma'am.
Is there anything that the city has to pay? I believe we've been in big discussions about budgets. Is there anything that's not included, the car,
No, essentially, if you don't have an extra car,
So Sheriff Crawford's agreed to give us a call.
what we've done with the other departments, if they have things that they're not using at the time, they put that in there and use it, and then if it were to break, we'll pay for it. But I can tell you, we're good partners. We're not going to squabble over little things. We want a good relationship. That's what we're going to have.
What happens in the summertime with the officer?
They're working for you,
Right.
but we're paying the salary.
I don't see how you can go wrong with that.
Now, there's some training and whatnot, they have special training, and let's be honest, I know Chief Jones, I thought every law enforcement officer is not made for school. These are we take very much pride in who we get the right person and the right fit, and it works for everybody.
Questions from the council?
So the training, is that something that you all cover as well?
Some of it, yes ma'am, there'll be some SRO training in the summer that we will help facilitate, but then I know there's departmental training that the chief will handle specifically, but between the two of us, we will handle all that and make sure that person's certified. And the goal is to find someone that we can retain. They build relationships with the kids and the parents in our community moving forward, and that's good all the way around.
That's super important. Yeah.
Has that been difficult to find SROs?
It has. I think that's indicative of law enforcement in general right now, and the workforce in general. And the sheriff's office trying to hire that many, this allows their portion to shrink a little bit, and it will be easier to maintain their number moving forward. And then that keeps, as we said, keeps our kids safer having them at every school.
Mr. Long, anything?
I just think it's a tremendous thing for us to have that full-time SRO. I can't describe to you how parents feel when they see that SRO outside the school, because it just gives them that extra layer, security and just comfort to know that there's somebody there. And we've got a really safe school, and it's not like we don't have a lot of trouble, but it's you never know. You look at our school, we've got streets on four sides. We have kids that have to cross that back street to go to the playground because just the way the school's set up. And so it just would be a great thing for not only our school, but for the kids and also the families. I mean, I completely support it. And Chris and I have got a great relationship. And like you said, it's not like I call him every day, but when we need something, if I call him, he comes right away. And so if it's as simple as, my SRO got pulled out of the school, and so we're taking kids to Student for our attendance incentive. He'll come out and block the roads, we can cross the road safely, go down. Or it could be, we have a custody dispute or something like that, where we're like, we might need somebody here just in case something happens. Those are the kind of things that we do all the time. It'd be great to have somebody there constantly.
our school system has been ranked as one of the top safest in Georgia for many years now, but this will only make it better, and that's our goal.
I think that this is a prime example of how government bodies can partner to make things happen, a higher level of service at a lesser cost.
That's right.
So, you know, the benefits that the city get is during the summer hours, or summer months, and at other times during the year that they can fill in spots where we're
Exactly.
lacking.
'Cause on a normal school year, you're looking at 180 school days.
Right.
Minus weather and whatnot.
And then, and not increasing our budget, which has been
Exactly.
very,
Yes, ma'am.
very important, yeah.
Thank you for paying for school supplies.
Thank you very
Yes.
much. Thank you.
That was huge. I mean, you know that Baldwin last year partnered with Baldwin
Yes,
Elementary.
yes. I have a great relationship.
Right, to supply what the children needed, but thank you.
Very excited about that. I appreciate you.
We are
bringing
too.
that up.
That was great news. We were happy.
Getting a lot of great feedback from parents on that.
Oh, I'm sure.
A lot of appreciation there.
Yeah,
And I think I'm a product of Baldwin Elementary. I attended there.
that's right.
My mother worked there for 35 years, so it's highly invested. So, any other- That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. But I want to thank Miss Emily. She's been great to work with, working through that contract. But basically, we're going to be good partners. What I want you all to do. It is a contract. We need a contract, but we're there to support
Yes.
moving forward. So, thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you for your time.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item on our agenda is discussion of animal control invoice. Ms. Woodmaster, will you please?
Well, good evening. Really quick, just to touch on that MOU, it is going to be presented at our next meeting. It is an annual contract. It's set to start, it's a little retroactive, July 1 to June 30th. It auto-renews, it auto-renews every year. The only thing that will change is the cost, and that's contingent upon our costs because they're our employee. So that's renegotiated with the county. I did want to mention that.
And it's been people.
Yes. All right. On page 11 of your packet is the animal control invoice for fiscal year 2025, which has passed. They invoice us in June every year. So it's a bill at the end of the year instead of the beginning of the year. And the budget for FY25 was it anticipated a 3% increase to the digest, which is used to offset or create a credit towards the cost of animal control for Habersham County, and it came in higher than what we budgeted. We budgeted $19,000, and the cost this year is $20,997.88.
We agreed to pay a different amount though, is that right?
We agreed initially, yes, but we agreed to the structure, how they calculate the animal control costs. It's based on, they take the animal control budget and then any of the associated fees or costs incurred by the other departments at the county. So the finance department, there's a portion of that in there, E911 portion in there, and all of that is added together for a total cost for animal control, and then that's divided out amongst the cities and the county based on population. And then they give us this digest credit that we talked about last year. That is on the gross digest and not the net digest. And the overall cost initially, we paid, I think it was like $18,350. And so we anticipated that 3% increase. We did not anticipate it being higher than that. Every city did that pays for this. Cornelia and Clarksville do not have to pay because of their tax digest. So the other 4 cities, we've all had to encumber this. Denver's experienced the same thing. They budgeted one cost and it came in higher this year. We do not have the funds allocated to pay for this out of the prior year budget. We have $19,000. So we can pay the $19,000, but we will need to encumber the other $1,000.
So you want to go first? This has been my baby for almost 8 years. And my problem with the way, even though we worked this out last year, it was a time crunch kind of thing, and we had people dropping off animals at City Hall, which I would take them home and try to figure out something. City Hall, and then
Nikos?
at our city clerk, the puppies that get
Nikos.
Nikos, so we ended up with Nikos. Actually, that was that. Our city clerk taking home puppies and kittens and nurturing them and trying to find them a home. So my problem is that Habersham County taxpayers already pay for this service. The E911, all the other little things, they like to play a little shell game and move stuff around, and when they're like, oh, well, you know what, you guys are this much population, so you gotta pay extra. Just because, there was no good reason for it at all. So, in the case of Clarksville and Cornelia not having to pay anything, actually that's not true. And Cornelia, and if I were a Cornelia or Clarksville taxpayer, I'd be rather upset because they are actually paying more and they're subsidizing animal control for everybody else, for county residents. Actually, us paying in is also subsidizing animal control for the rest of the county. The way that they calculate the numbers is dumb. This is trash. And now they're asking us to pay extra.
Did they have a rationale for why they came in higher than the?
They can have a,
It's based on the digest, and so they bill us in June for the year prior. It was our understanding now 2 cycles ago that they would bill us in June for the next fiscal year, so we knew how to budget for it. But the opposite is actually true. They did not bill us for the FY25 year until the end of it. So the budget is exhausted. We got this invoice on June 19th, so that was 2 weeks away from the close out of the fiscal year, and it came in $1,997 higher.
can I ask a question that probably should be directed at legal? No, I may have answered my question in my head. But I'll go ahead and ask it anyway. What repercussions do we have of not paying this? Like, what are our,
We utilize the service. I mean, the entire year
so they bullied us into paying?
we agreed to the,
We contracted to pay it, right?
yes, initially, and then it auto renews every year. We tried to put in a stipulation that required that it forced a renegotiation every year.
Right,
That was denied.
yes, that's right.
So this is an auto renewal, and it is based on digest numbers.
So we canceled it for the upcoming year.
That's correct.
I mean, I'm looking at this invoice, and it's not telling me, what they're sending us does not tell me the breakdown of what we're paying for, so they need to come back to us, in my opinion, with an explanation of how they came to this $20,997.88. I mean, I understand the 3%.
Well, the 3% is what we anticipated in the budget.
Okay.
There's a formula that they use annually to decide the cost of the animal control service. However, what they're using are digest numbers that didn't exist when we adopted our budget. So we anticipated what it was going to be,
Yeah.
but then we didn't get an invoice until the end of our budget. So we didn't have time to move anything around in our budget or find additional funding for it because the invoice came at the end of the budget cycle, which I asked the county manager if we could amend this so that we could be charged at the beginning of a fiscal year in the month of June. And he said it was not possible. But we are set to meet about it. We just have not set a date yet to discuss it. And now that it's not in ours, I don't know that he wants to meet with us.
Have we gone to them to say, we budgeted 19,000, we paid for that?
I have not said that. I did say we only budgeted 19,000 so this has to go to the city council. So they are aware that we haven't paid this invoice or that we can't pay it until the council allocates the funds for it. We have 19,000. That is in the FY25 budget planned for this expense.
I feel that that's what they're going to have to be happy with.
Right. can't vote on it now, but it is discussion.
We did contract for it. That's, I think that's the issue. We knew the terms of the contract when we contracted for it, right?
Without an established cost.
Right.
It's based on that formula.
Do we know what the formula is yet?
Yes, I mean, we have that. I'm happy to provide that. I can get it in between meetings.
Are we also, because this animal control subject, are we also, no, I guess we're not because we canceled it, although we are still having this discussion about cuts and changing some things around because we had to pass the budget so that we can make sure we weren't in trouble for any grants that we were eligible for. So we're still having those discussions. Our police chief has said, I just have to have animal control. Unfortunately, our police chief has been put in a position where he has had to euthanize a dog that bit someone because it was hurt. And we didn't have animal control at the time. We were still negotiating that. And let me just go ahead and say, Haversham Animal Control themselves, Maddie and her people, solid. Solid. They worked so hard. Was out there this weekend helping them clean cat cages, and seeing what they have to work with is pitiful. It is derelict, and the county manager and commission at the time left that derelict. So I don't want to cast any aspersions on animal control themselves. It's the powers that be, and their weird little formulas that leave us in these stupid positions, and where people are being double taxed. So that said, if we were to actually continue animal control, would we be negotiating our IGA? Because there were talks about.
We have to cancel animal control. That, yeah, so it's not in the budget. The council did not fund it this
Yeah,
year.
right.
But we have to do the same thing we did 2 years ago when we canceled it. We have to send them a letter. There's a
Right.
60-day window that we have to give them to cancel that service.
But we're still looking at budget amendments
Yes.
going forward, whether it's cutting or adding, because there may
That's
be some
correct.
things added. So in that scenario, if there was an amendment to fund animal control, renegotiating the intergovernmental agreement because they were over here giving Banks County residents citations and then curing them in Habersham County, which is against their, can't do that. They can't do that. So, is that something that would be renegotiated?
So if I could, I spoke with Emily about this. I spoke with Judge House of Magistrate Court.
Yes.
So animal control would not write any more citations out of the Habersham County Magistrate Court for
Right.
animal control. Because as Ms. Venter said, we have an issue because you've got jurisdiction issues. You have an animal control based out of Habersham County
Yes.
writing a citation to a Banks County citizen. So what would happen is we would write citations from the animal control officer that would be heard in our court. And
Right.
all other municipalities in the county have agreed to the same thing, and the judge feels that is best. But there was legal fees added into that contract by the county, so that would need to be negotiated out because we'd be hearing it in our court.
Right.
So
Okay,
that's
so
something-
part of the number that we were looking at previously included legal fees for that?
Yes, so every city should go back to the county, because they are not going to hear the city citations in the county court. And the court, fees are in that formula. So
that needs
that has to be,
taken out,
it does
right?
have to be looked at.
Good.
That's
So
right.
so correct me if I'm wrong,
But that also could mean that they may not give us animal control. They're not required
They're
to
not
provide
obligated.
it. And
Are
the
they
city
not
of
re-
Baldwin historically has been the outlier that would cancel a contract and enter it, cancel a contract and then enter it. So if we cancel this contract, who's to say that they will invite a conversation to have it back again? Now, our residents, Habersham County residents, can still take animals to the shelter. They just will no longer have an animal control officer come out to the city of Baldwin to provide that service. But there is no guarantee that the county will entertain another contract with the city.
I'm not gonna be bullied into doing that. they have to respond to Habersham County because it's their residents that's paying the same daggone tax as everybody else.
Their case many times over has been that this is an unincorporated service. It is not entitled to every county resident.
Well, I think service delivery negotiations need to happen again.
There is no special tax district for animal control for Habersham County. So. But I'm happy to go back to 10.
Thanks.
I want to explain that. And you're supposed to be meeting with the county manager.
Yes. I don't know if it's still.
Okay, next item on our agenda is discussion of SPLOST 8 project list.
All right. So the current SPLOST that we are in is SPLOST 7. We are just over halfway, a little over halfway through it, more than halfway through it. Never mind. We have a year and a half left in the current SPLOST, Habersham County SPLOST 7. And the county is looking to put SPLOST 8 on the referendum in November for the voters to consider so that when, I think it's March of 2027 is the last month of collections for SPLOST 7, that we will go right into SPLOST 8 should it be approved by the voters. We are required to submit our SPLOST project list to the county by by Friday. Almost to the day, but I don't know what Friday's date is. By Friday, so that they can start to put the referendum package together to get it to the Secretary of State. So, what I did, what is before you tonight on page 12 of your packet, is a list of the anticipated projects that city staff would like to see happen. Some of these are carryovers from SPLOST 7. We either didn't have enough to fund it, or it's a shared. There's a shared fee, which actually I take that back. I think we moved it out. There is in SPLOST 7 we had a couple of road projects. Highland Point is the one that split. So we started the Highland Point project in SPLOST 7, but there isn't enough funding to complete it. So that's why it is in the SPLOST 8 package. We also have, Chandler Run is another one that is in the current SPLOST. We are hopeful to get that one done in this SPLOST cycle. We're anticipating, we still have 22 months of collections, so we're anticipating about another $800,000 to come in, which should cover that project with what we currently have. The other projects that you see, recreation, the pit solar lights, this is to match the solar lights that are in Ayers Park, so that there is continuity between both parks. The pavilion restoration at Mitchell Gailey Park, we all know that it's, he might have left already. He says it's hanging together by termites holding hands.
Yep.
So it's time for that to be repaired.
Yeah. It
that
was
is
actually moved from another park and repurposed.
That's
there.
correct. It was in Wilbanks Park.
Yes, it is.
Mhm. Yep. And then for the public safety portion of the project list, we have fencing for the training building, which has been one of the requests from our fire department for the last couple of years to fence this in, as well as paved parking. I say here, but it's actually right there because we're in the training room.
Yeah.
So the paved parking on this side, our fire trucks come through here. The concrete is paved now. It's time to get the rest of it paved instead of using gravel. So that is in there as well. And then a storage solution for courts. We've heard Susan say time and time again that what we have is not sufficient. We've mitigated a rodent problem, but it hasn't eradicated it. And getting them a storage solution for the citations from 1976 that have not been adjudicated are, it is necessary, and we feel like this is an appropriate place to put that expense. And then we also have extrication tools for the fire department. There are, we had it in the budget for this year to get a new set of Jaws of Life. And then that was pulled from the budget. We're still hopeful to get it from public safety funds after the fire department, or the fire truck payment is taken out. However, in the event that it isn't, this is another funding source that we can use to get those tools. For Public Works, we have a generator for the building that they are currently in. And then we added the vehicle replacement. They have a 10-year replacement program. We put 2 vehicles in here again. to save the budget. We've added that in here as well, and then an equipment trailer.
Can I make a comment, just to point something out, because you actually have people on it. This was one of the things that was said in our budget hearing, and town hall was like, oh, they're driving brand new trucks. The thing is that they didn't come from taxpayer dollars, they came from SPOS dollars. They came from sales taxpayers. So, in other words, we weren't, going to the property taxpayers and saying, hey, can we get new trucks for all our guys that are working in the hole for 48 hours straight? Yeah. So I'm glad that we're continuing that for SPOS 8.
And then we've also added infrastructure to this SPOS list. It wasn't on the last one.
Yes.
We've added it. We all know that our infrastructure is aging and needs assistance. So we have on there the Whispering Woods lift station, which has been a hot button issue for us for as long as I've been here. Again, we're still hopeful to get a CDBG grant for this, but in the event that we can't get it, again, this is a funding source to make that happen.
So I'm really, overly elated to see that the lion's share is going towards the infrastructure. So previously, the last time? It was the last time. What SPOS was that? Was it 7 with Jeff Parrish? Yeah, so.
Not another penny.
So you folks that are here to talk about water, and hear about water, especially down that way, we had a council member that said, not one more penny in the ground until the people can see what it is that we have. So now we have all these parks. The parks are lovely, but we have a lot of parks for a little tiny. We should be called Park City. So instead, this time we have a lot towards our infrastructure, which is where it should have been put. And this is a part of my tremendous frustration about all of the hard work that we've done to try to get those water lines down that mountain fixed, because it's been a real thorn in our side for a long time. And the fact that that guy was saying, oh, we need to make these parks pretty. No, people need water. And he literally did not want to put any more money into the ground, which is asinine and is the same mindset that Mr. Barnhart was talking about landed us in the situation that we're in now. So thank you for this actually having infrastructure.
We also have system-wide insertion valves. This is to create sections of our system that we can isolate. So when we are doing a repair, we are not compromising the entire mountain system when we're fixing that repair and finding strategic locations to put those. That is a $300,000 project. And then we have zone meters on here. Again, hopeful we can have another funding source for this.
Yes.
However, in the event that we don't have another funding source, put it in here.
Yeah.
We have, we all know what our water loss is. And this is one of those projects that we've been working with our engineering firm to, first assess where we can place zone meters, but then actually installing them and finding where that water is going in our system. So we've allocated $600,000 for that. Granted, we're looking at a SPOS list that is 6-ish, 7 years out. So the cost most likely will no longer be that, but we've tried to put in a little bit of a buffer, and hopefully we can offset that with some additional grants. So the total for SPOS 8, the anticipated collections for the city of Baldwin is $3.6 million. We have chosen, during the HC3 meeting last month, all of the cities were represented with the exception, I think, of Tallulah. There was one city that wasn't there, but they later agreed that the current distribution split for SPOS 7 was going to be the best for SPOS 8, so that there wasn't an argument or a case to be made that things have changed or whatever. It's based on population. There is a tier 1 project projected in this new SPOS, and it is for a new jail. It is a $20 million bond being tied to the SPOS 8. And for those of you who don't know, what happens with the level 1 project is that money that is allocated to that project comes off the top before everyone gets their collection. So for the next, if this SPOS were to pass for 72 months, whatever the equal payment of $20 million is, will come off the top of that monthly payment, and then the county and the cities will get their share of whatever is left. Once that $20 million is collected, then the rest of it will go to the cities. So we had something very similar in this current SPOS with the hospital bond debt. Since all of that has been collected, because we have collected more than we anticipated collecting when we adopted this SPOS, now all of those shares are coming directly to the city. There is no longer that top level dollar amount coming off. Back in 2022, I believe, the end of 22, legislation passed that made it to where if you buy something online, instead of the sales tax going to the point of origin, it's going to the point or the end location. So if you're buying something from Amazon, your sales tax is now going back to your community. So that didn't happen. It wasn't anticipated, which is why everyone saw a bump in SPOS collection or sales tax collections in general. Banks County saw the same thing and lost in their SPOS as well. Any questions about this list? Is there something that you want to see on here that's not on here, something that you don't like?
Well, forgive my ignorance, okay, so SPOS have to go to capital projects.
That's correct.
And capital projects could include things like fire trucks, police
Yes.
cars, ambulances.
Yes.
So we had about, $240,000 bill coming due for fire truck and E911 radio systems. That kind of threw the budget out of whack this year. So why wouldn't we have those payments, and we just bought that lap truck, which the payments will be coming due in 2 years?
In a year.
In a year. So why wouldn't we include those things here instead of putting new things?
Because the radios that we're purchasing are a one-time expense at the front end, and we need them now. So this loss list isn't projected for another, we're not gonna see these collections for almost 2 years. So the radio project has to be encumbered now, which is why we allocated ARPA funds to it. The maintenance fees, we could not pay for on SPOS, it's not a capital expense, it's just a maintenance fee. The fire truck, the only reason it wasn't included in here is because the council has previously allocated public safety funds and budgeted funds to accommodate that expense.
But it could be moved to this, if we redo the budget.
Potentially, but then you also have the option of, or the risk that the voters don't vote to pass the SPOS. So if you reallocate it to the SPOS 8 list, and then the voters vote it down, then you have to go back to the drawing board and reallocate it back into your budget, or whatever mechanism it was that you were choosing to fund it out of. So it is a bit of a risk to do that, especially with something, it's something that we already have, right? That, the expense, the lease was already created 2 years ago, almost 3 years ago. And so we are halfway through that lease program. Now, if there's a new vehicle that you wanted to add to it, you could do that. And I would just, I'm sorry?
Or the backup, or is that too?
Yeah, you could add that if you wanted to.
Can you explain to council and media how you arrived at the $360,000?
The county did.
Exactly.
This is their formula.
It's their formula.
But all of the cities in the county previously agreed to this formula in the SPOS 7 negotiation.
Right.
So it's based on, it is a population split.
And what we think we will receive.
That's correct. Yeah.
For
So,
the-
I mean,
for the life of-
yeah,
Right,
the economy
exactly.
could crash,
Exactly.
nobody could buy anything,
Yeah.
SPOS is not guaranteed.
We definitely
This is not a
experienced
guaranteed
that with
funding
loss
source.
for Banks County,
Exactly.
which is the,
Yeah.
So there are a couple of gambles
Yes.
by putting things in SPOS. Does it pass the citizens' vote? And this is a continuation of the one thing SPOS, right?
Yeah.
We have SPOS 7, this would be SPOS 8, it would be continuing that one.
Habersham has had this version of SPOS, so not T-SPOS, not LOS, but this version of SPOS, just a special projects, SPOS, or LOST. We've had a continuation of it since 2013. So it has been voted in for the last 2 cycles. We're hopeful for a third. What failed 2 years ago was a T-SPOS.
yeah.
Exactly. So,
But Banks County is a T-SPOS,
And
and
that's
Banks
why
County roads are
Banks County
paid.
roads are getting paid, right?
yeah.
Paid for by people that go shop.
Yeah, so the gambles are, we don't know how the vote is gonna go, and then we also don't know what the economy is gonna look like.
Okay.
That's correct. And this is 2 years out.
There's also some restriction in the law regarding including existing debt in the new SPOS. And so to the extent that that is existing debt, we would have to evaluate that to see if it is even eligible.
I know that this does seem rushed, because we're asking for a vote in 30 minutes. We didn't have a lot of time. We met with HC3, all of the cities agreed. And so the list compiled is strictly based off of what has constantly been presented, either in retreat, in a public meeting, or your department heads have put it on their monthly staff reports that this is a capital need that they have. That's where this list was born out of. I asked them to review it. They're all okay with it, with the exception of the extrication rules. That one might get tweaked a little bit because I don't think I put in enough for Jaws of Life. However, we're trying to tie down that total.
But we know the number of accidents.
Yes,
are 365.
that's true.
But
And-
guys was
Yeah, and the other side of SPLOS is that even though we're creating this rather detailed list, this is not what gets presented in the referendum. It is just a bucket. So it's roads and bridges, it's the repavement of the road service, it's equipment, or whatever that looks like. So it will get, it'll look more, condensed on the actual IGA, and the request in the council meeting will be to approve the list, and specifically the bucket. So if we need to tweak something inside of it, we do have time to do that before it's actually put out to bid, not out to bid. On the referendum, I think they're trying to submit, I want to say he said it was the 21st of July, that they were trying to get it submitted by, because they have to do. So we still have a couple of days. I just need to get him our buckets list by Friday.
I mean, I'm happy with our buckets, so much better.
It's a good list.
It is a good list.
And then
It makes a lot, this list makes sense.
And then the second request in the next meeting will be to authorize the mayor to execute the IGA so that they can get it out
Yeah.
to bid.
You guys? Yes.
there. All right, the next item on our list is discussion of Banks County flops. They didn't have enough acronyms.
So if you recall, we spent a significant amount of time talking about House Bill 581, that really the end of last year, but really the beginning of this year. And it's kind of a twofold bill, right? So one of the requirements of the bill, in order to get this extra flossed sales tax penny, was that you had to have a freezing exemption or some version of a freezing homestead exemption, or opt in to the one that the state was providing, which we did. We've opted into it. The county, Banks County, has also opted into it. Every city, I believe it's my understanding that every city in Banks County has also opted into that homestead exemption, which essentially, whatever your property value is, your assessed property value is this year, on the next one, it can only go up by 3% over and above that amount, regardless of the assessment. This only applies to homesteaded properties, so if you are a multi-property owner, you do not benefit from that. However, or commercial property, you do not benefit from that. However, the floss that was built into this legislation as well is another sales tax penny that everyone is allowed to go into or to utilize in that county if everyone has a version of a freezing exemption, and it is used as a dollar for dollar rollback on property taxes. So Banks County residents have seen this, and our Baldwin Banks County residents have seen this for the last 20 years or 18 years with loss. Is it 18? 20? Whatever it is.
Yeah.
Lost exists. There's a local option sales tax, and those dollars roll back the property tax millage rate for Banks County residents in Baldwin. So there's a Habersham County millage rate. There's really a Baldwin millage rate, but Habersham County sees the full millage rate, and Banks County sees that discounted millage rate based on the lost dollars that come in. This floss penny is designed to do the exact same thing.
Right.
It does require the votes of the people. So it requires a referendum, and it also requires that the county and the cities enter into an intergovernmental agreement on the distribution of those funds. They could also go after it without us. We had a meeting today, right before this meeting, And we had to leave just a little bit early, because we are talking about what this looks like. There is still a number of unknowns about this law, how it's going to be carried out, for the funds that come in, because, you know, everyone is stressing it is only dollar for dollar. You can only use it to roll back taxes. Well, what happens if you don't have a millage rate? Because there's 4 cities in Banks County that don't have a millage rate. Because the lost dollars that come in roll back their millage to 0.
I think Homer, is not Homer one of them?
Homer does not have a millage
Homer
rate.
does not have.
Homer doesn't, Alto doesn't.
Maysville, yeah.
Maysville has one and Baldwin has one. Gillsville doesn't have
Dillard
one.
does the same thing, but
Yeah.
obviously not our county, but that's
But
always fascinating.
because it's rolled back, the
Right.
opinion of their legal team
Yeah.
and their board of commissioners is that they're not eligible to receive these funds. So the conversation has become, do we just let the county have it and it's just discounts all county property? Or do Baldwin and Maysville get to participate in that lost penny?
So I had a call from one of the Banks County Commissioner a little bit earlier today with exactly that question. And that person said, you know, it's, you know, they were misunderstanding that LOST was was funding for projects like SPLOST is. That LOST is a dollar for dollar rollback, so that money that comes in, we roll back the millage rate to offset that. So it's like the people that shop in Commerce are paying your property tax. Is really what it amounts to. Then he asked, but what about, it sounds like that the city residents are getting even more of a rollback. And I said, it's the same rollback. You're doing your rollback on the county part of your taxes, but then the city residents pay over and above, they pay city tax, which is over and above what the county residents pay. So that rollback is all in additional off of only what they're paying over and above there to the city than the county. So that seemed to, he was like, okay, that makes a little more sense. So, but we've been doing this with Banks County for a long time with lost dollars, the negotiations. Habersham County, because those lost dollars go directly to the schools, they're one of only 8 counties in the entire state that get those lost dollars, those lost pennies, go to the Habersham County schools, which is really where the House Bill 581 was born out of that discussion, because it was their state representative that brought that to the state legislature and worked it all out, and here we are. So, yeah.
This also has a time limit. They're trying to put it on the referendum for November. And while we are working through the negotiations, I believe their IGA is to be complete. I forget what day. Did they say, Aaron? It's pretty quickly. They don't have an IGA drawn up yet. They have the version that ACCG has provided. The first week of September is when they want to ideally have the IGA signed so that they can put it on the referendum. In the event that we cannot reach a conclusion or an agreement on an IGA, they'll delay it. They won't put it on the referendum. They'll wait and put it, I think they said in January for the March election. So we want a lot of people to vote, not just a small number who donate to the referendum. So we do have some conversations to have. We have a meeting on Friday with Banks County to talk about the Banks County water system, and Chairman Griffith asked that we also bring this back up in that meeting to kind of fine-tooth comb what this decision is going to be. Because the case for the other cities that are in Banks County that don't have a sales, or they don't have a millage, it is their opinion that they don't benefit from FLOST. With Maysville and the city of Baldwin, with our population, we are 50% of the municipal population, so we can enter into an IGA with Banks County without everyone else, but that is not ideal. So we do still have some discussions, but this did happen today, so we wanted you guys to be apprised of what was going on. Any questions about floss? Still a new one. We're hoping some changes are made to that legislation. So they've already made some changes.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
know.
So
Yeah, that was the other thing was,
So either way, whether it goes to the city or the county, people in Banks County, if they pass the floss, are gonna see a rollback in their taxes, it's a matter of if it's city tax
That's
or
right.
county tax.
Yep. Yeah, so I mean, and this was their position, that it is a win for every Banks County resident for this loss, because it is going to roll back your property taxes the same way that loss does. However, if it only goes to the county, then the cities are bearing that extra tax to the Banks County resident, who, I mean, this is, they've chosen to live in the city to have a higher level of service than that of the county. And so they're not seeing that discount, if you will, on their city property taxes. They would just see on the county side. But at the end of the day, it is a win for the Banks County resident to have that sales tax payment. It is another sales tax. And currently, the sales tax in Banks County is 8%, and this would increase that to 9%. That is the cap for those of you who are interested. So there can be no additional penny added without going to the General Assembly and being the size of Atlanta and getting the exception. So that is the new cap for sales tax.
thank you for really, I believe you were the one that led the discussion about House Bill 581 and floss with Banks County and Habersham County, because we were all running around like, oh, we don't know what's going on. So thank you for being the one that broke it down for us in plain language. And you did it again today. Good job. Thanks.
You're welcome.
All right, we'll move to announcements. The Banks County Library on the Go will be set up at the Tap Yard at 110 Airport Road from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. every Friday through the end of July. All residents are welcome to check out and return books. Additionally, those visiting the local library with children can receive food bags courtesy of the food bank of Northern School. Join us for There is Theater at the Tap Yard on July 25th at 8:30 for a free screening of Patterson. Bring a chair or blanket and enjoy a night under the stars with your friends and family. The sessions are available with all proceeds going to shopping. And lastly, Highland Point Drive from Dawn Place to Trojan Lane will be closed to through traffic from 6/30/2025 to 7/11/2025 for road repairs. Access will be limited to residents of those roads.
As far as announcements go, I was not able to be here for our picnic that we throw every summer. It's sort of our 4th of July celebration. All of our events are paid for through businesses that donate to the city to make these things happen. And during our picnic, we typically feed 500 hamburgers and hot dogs free to the public. We feed the people. I will say that now Habersham put out an article that laid out all of the different places that you can go and see fireworks on July 4th and July 5th. They unfortunately, again this year, left the city of Baldwin out of that, which is frustrating because we do have a lot of people in our end of the county that don't have the money to go and participate in things where they can go and spend money at vendors and things like that. So we're always really proud that our businesses bring us money that helps us bring our community together and feed people that otherwise may not be able to enjoy themselves. But you know, it's not the first time that now Habersham has done that, but what I did notice about that particular article is that comments were not allowed on the Facebook post. So hopefully, now Habersham, who loves to bring you information about me yelling at people or the water situation or the chief administrative officer's contract, they love to make articles like that, but they don't bring you the articles about Baldwin feeding our people and loving them. So that's the only announcement that I have.
Any other announcements from council, from staff?
The delay in shipping for the month?
Oh,
Oh,
thank
yeah.
you, I forgot. We have a mechanical issue. We will have delay in shipping this month, and again, this is the last month that we will be doing shipping because of a reduction in staff. So we apologize for the delay in shipping. I need a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
I have a motion from Councilman Hunter, do I have a second? Second. A second from Councilman Davis, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, we are adjourned for, wait, before we do, Chief, are we moving or are we staying here?
Didn't say the beach when I was up there about 15, 20 minutes.
We can stay here.
We can stay
Yeah.
here.
I'm 46-year-old.
If anybody needs to use the restroom, they can go up to the courtroom and we'll reconvene in about 10, 15 minutes. So,
The main door in the PD to the lobby is unlocked. The rest of the locked except the bathroom. One bathroom.
Is that if you don't collect, have water,
Okay.
you're not. However, the way that I look at it, and now I'm wrong, is that if you levy a tax, you're qualified. But they levy a tax.
Why do you think we don't collect? Doing intergovernmental agreement with tax?
Well, we collect, but they're saying that.